Hey guys, it's Dan. Welcome back. And happy Orktober for those who are celebrating. This is probably going to be my only contribution, but I realize we're about midway through the month, so I wanted to get this video out. And in truth, I need more of these figures, specifically like I need a hole in the head, but I have a lot of experience with this kit, and this is like the Boxers review, where I kind of just picked up the sprue and printed off the box art. This is another one where it's just a single sprue repeated multiple times. So not having the physical box, I don't think really detracts anything from a review standpoint. Oathmark, I guess it's actually North Star that produces the miniatures, but Oathmark is the game that's produced by Osprey. So again, a little bit of cross company interaction there. They've got a lot of boxes now that are all in the fantasy genre. And for orcs specifically, they have orc infantry, and then they have orc heavy infantry that they just released they look to be anyway totally interchangeable. And we'll talk about that at the end. I have the goblin box as well that I found to be very interchangeable with this one. And the goblins too have like goblin infantry and goblin rabble, I think it's called, like a light infantry box. And just for like a little bit more kind of perspective, if you've got no experience with this range, like the dwarves, for example, have dwarf infantry, dwarf light infantry, and dwarf heavy infantry. So that's just sort of how they operate, where they're deliberately putting out kits that are kind of like light, medium, heavy versions of infantry. And I'm sure that has in-game impact as well. But from a hobby standpoint, it presents a lot of opportunity for us to mix and match bits from different kits. So I've actually, again, picked up several of these boxes, and this 30 model multi-part plastic kit, and the only thing it comes with other than this sprue duplicated is it comes with the Renadra bases, not the multi-bases, but these ones. So these 25mm square, I think it's like 3 sprues of 10 of these. So they're individual bases, there's no multi-bases in the kit, but just something to be aware of, that it does come with bases, which is cool. Nice to see, even though some of us maybe are picking this up for different systems that wouldn't use those bases. It is cool to have them included as an option. So let's take a quick overview shot here, as we typically do, and we can look kind of at the sculpting quality and the design. And again, at the end, I'm going to build some of these and show you how they scale up with some other Oathmark kits, as well as maybe some Games Workshop stuff, since I think some people might be curious about how these could potentially work as Warhammer proxies, etc. So the sculpting is good. I don't really see any flash, and that was my experience with the boxes as well. So it's not just a production run question, but everything looks nice and crisp. You see you've got the bodies up at the top. You've got weapon options toward the center here, some heads, and we'll look at all those in detail here in a moment. But one thing I did want to note that I like, especially for mass fantasy battle war games like this, where presumably this is like an army builder kind of kit and not for a skirmish game where you'd have different people or different models equipped with different things. I like that the equipment options are sufficient to arm everybody the same way. So I see bow options, there's a hand weapon shield option, and then a spear option. And there are enough of each of those bits to arm each of these 5 models all the same way if you like. And of course you can then mix and match if you want, but that's something that I personally like for building up, armies and regiments of stuff. So let's take a look at the bodies here. I really like the aesthetic of these. I find them to be kind of like medieval fantasy. I would contrast that with kind of a World of Warcraft fantasy, and it's totally legitimate. It's just not my thing. But I like this, where much like Peter Jackson's interpretation of Tolkien in Lord of the Rings, it really did feel like this could have happened at some point in history. And you see that reflected here in the armor and equipment, that this is all vaguely reminiscent of actual, at various points of, history, but actual historical arms and armor. So yeah, it's really nice sculpting here. Some of this looks like Dark Age, early medieval stuff, some kind of later medieval, even Renaissance with some of the plate, but it's just cool. It's just cool to see this, and even that they have a lot of it looking banged up and kind of bolted on, some ragged trousers and tunics, just creates kind of a neat aesthetic. Let's hop down here to the heads. There are 11 head options in the kit, which is fine. I guess I'm spoiled because Victrix puts out like like 3 and 4 to 1 ratios of heads to bodies. So 2 to 1 is totally normal and fine. And you can see the sculpting is, I think, pretty great. They got neat, again, going back to the aesthetic that they've gone with, where I think I mentioned in my War Games Atlantic Goblin review that some of the heads there reminded me almost of like Labyrinth, where you've got like different style of orc or goblin faces. Like some of these look like goblins to me, like Moria goblins. Some of them look like straight up orcs. And then some of them almost look like half orcs, like this guy down here. So it's just neat to see kind of that motley crew kind of aesthetic to orc and goblin designs, but orc design in this particular case. But my only criticism, I guess, of the head options here is that half of them are unarmored and half of them are armored, which is fine if you're looking to mix and match those. However, if you're looking to have like all armored heads or all unarmored heads, maybe you're making archers, something like that, you're pretty much gonna have the same 5 heads repeated in either of those cases. So your best bet, really, if you're looking for variety, is to blend these heads together within a kit, but that would be, I think, totally fine for orcs. And let's move up here to the bow arms. You can see that there's 5 bow arms for the 5 bodies. Some of them are in firing poses, some of them are in like loading poses, and neat to see. This is something we've been seeing more and more over the last few years, where you've got arrows that are sculpted into the hands. This is something that, like, I would say even like 10, 15 years ago, I think it was like just technologically too difficult to do, but now it seems like everybody's able to do this. It's just cool to see, and this is pretty much the only flash that I think I see anywhere on this kit, which is understandable for such a small bit. And then a quiver for everybody, so that's cool. Sliding down a little bit further here, you've got the left arms. I think one of the left arms is down here, but the left arm's here to hold these shields. And I also really like this shield design that they've gone with, where it's like a mix of round shields. There's a crescent shield, but the boss on all of them is this really wicked looking spike. So again, it's just something cool for orcs, even that the tunics on all the left arms are kind of ripped. And then moving down into the weapons, you've got spears and you've got hand weapons. It looks like there's actually 6 hand weapons. You got like a dagger down here, 2 swords, mace, and then 2 axes. And again, going back to design, kind of aesthetic, it's just neat. I really like the direction they've gone with here with these kind of like crescent looking blades. Yeah, just kind of quintessential orc weapons with like a heavy spiked mace. And then down here, actually, for the what I think is like a character upgrade section, you've got a great axe. You've got, this is actually a left-handed arm, so you can make a 2-handed weapon guy if you wanted. And then a neat enough banner pole option here. And then, of course, spear options. These are pretty straightforward, I think. But you can see the sculpting here, I think, is all very nice and clean. So overall, I think this is a successful kit. I'm really, I've been following Oathmark for a while, just because I've been curious to see sort of how they evolve and the different kits that they put out. So let's put some of these together. We'll cut here. I want to bring out some of the ones that I've previously assembled. I want to assemble some more, and then I want to show you how they stack up maybe with some of the Games Workshop figures. You know, I realized for the first time that this is the only review I've done in which I have finished models that I can show you. As I was sitting down to like build some more of these, and I realized I've already done this and painted a bunch of them. So I have a bit of a treat for you, which is some finished Oathmark painted figures. I'm painting them all up like goblins, because the one thing I want to say for those that are curious about picking these up to maybe blend in with their Warhammer orc army is that these are small. And by small, I mean like, I don't actually have a Games Workshop orc, but here's like a Manic orc, right? Which is, I think, about approximate in scale. These actually might even be a little bit smaller than Games Workshop orcs. But here's just like a random orc model. And you can see that it's much smaller. These, I put them all on 20mm bases. And yeah, you can see that they really are more goblin-esque in stature than they are like Warhammer orcs. If you're looking for like a big hulking muscly mass, you're not going to get it out of this kit. What they actually remind me more of, again going back to the aesthetic of Peter Jackson's interpretation of Lord of the Rings, is they really do look like orcs from that movie, and like Mordor orcs specifically. And you can even see, like, here's a Victrix Huskarl on the right-hand side, and you can see that the orcs are actually all slightly smaller than the Victrix Huskarl. And yeah, where I think these would really shine if you're looking to use them for something other than like what I'm doing, which is using them as goblins. But I think these would be fantastic as proxies or alternate builds for Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. I think these would make excellent Mordor orcs if you were looking to pick this kit up and use it for something. So what I've done here in terms of, again, putting scale aside for a second, but in terms of finished models, what we're looking at here are, I'll just start going down the line here. These are orcs, all straight from the orc kit. So all the bits here, other than some of the shields, I've done some kit bashing just from other sets. But these are orc bodies with orc bits. And you can see, I think they paint up really nicely. Just did my normal wash technique with some little trick effects on the rust and the verdigris. And maybe I'll do a painting video on these. I did one for the shields, but I didn't really do one for the bodies, for the models themselves. So again, those are orc bodies with orc bits. Again, going back to the fact that I really think these kits blend super well together, the goblins and the orcs. These are two orc bodies that have goblin bits. So the arms on both of these are actually from the goblin set. The head actually on that one too is from the goblin set. Orc head on the right, goblin head on the left. Both of these are orc bodies, and then both of them have goblin arms. See, I really do feel that the arms anyway are totally interchangeable. The heads are a little bit smaller on the goblins. Again, you can see that in this example here, but not in a way that looks like totally out of the realm of possibility for something like an orc or a goblin. And certainly if you're putting the orc heads on the goblin bodies, as is what I've done here, there's no issue at all. And you can see too, maybe just from looking at it, that from a design standpoint, the goblin bodies are pretty much the same like height as the orc body. So again, an orc body on the right, goblins on the left, the only like partially painted models there. The key difference is that the goblins are a little bit more hunched over, and the ball mount for the head, the neck that sticks off of the model, is toward the front of the torso rather than on the top, which makes the head look like it's positioned a little bit more differently. But I think blending these together looks totally normal in terms of like if you're going to use these all as Mordor orcs, or if you want to use these all as goblins like I'm doing, I think that they all blend together perfectly well. So again, these were goblin bodies with orc bits. So these are all orc heads from the orc kit, and this one actually in the middle with the bow is the bow option that we saw on the sprue that we just looked at together. And then finally, these are goblins from the goblin kit, totally built from the goblin kit. All the bits are goblin bits. So again, even taking the smallest goblin with the largest orc finished models, I think that if you were blending these together in a unit, again, the two examples I'll keep coming back to are Mordor orcs for Lord of the Rings strategy battle, or again, what I'm doing, which is goblins, or use them all as orcs for a different setting. I think they all blend together pretty well. So a very successful kit, I think, from Oathmark. Really, their entire range I've been impressed with, and I'll be continuing to keep an eye on. So some more reviews coming. I just got a notification that my Victrix stuff is due to arrive probably Monday. Today is Saturday. I've got some Huskarls in a mid-stage of painting. That was one that you guys had voted on in the poll about 2 weeks ago. I appreciate everybody who participated in that. As ever, appreciate you guys dropping by, and until next time, happy gaming.